Welcome to Your Biz, Your Rules with me, Dara Paddy. Hi everyone and welcome back to Your Biz, Your Rules. Today I'm here with the wonderful Lisa Carpenter. Hi Lisa, please introduce yourself.
Hello. It's so good to be here. I love that. Your biz, your rules. That was kind of my mantra. My name is Lisa Carpenter. I call myself a transformational life and nutrition coach. And really what I do is I help women and men dig under the behaviors that are showing up in their lives that are actually preventing them from being their best selves. And generally speaking, I work with high performers, overachievers, right? Those of us who are really driving and pushing in this world because, we want to make a difference, but we end up getting in our way so often. So I really help bring people back to feeling the best that they possibly can in their lives, their businesses, and in their bodies.
I love that. That's such a poetic way to describe what you do.
Right? The irony is after we get off of this recording, I'm going to be meeting with some of the ladies that help me with my messaging, because one of the things that I've always struggled with in my business is being concise around my message. I'm long-winded. I love that. But sometimes people are like, just tell me what you do in like a short sentence. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. There's so many layers to what I do. So it's different every time I say it.
I think very, very few people know how to describe what they do in a really short sentence.
Right? I hate the elevator pitch. So I like to be able to kind of create different nuances in what I do. And I always like to be thinking about, well, what is it that I really help people with? Because it's, I'm a coach that really helps people dig into their emotions, and nobody wants to dig into that stuff. Like, give me a business plan, Lisa, and tell me the steps I need to take, but don't tell me to feel my feelings. Like, nobody wants to do that stuff. But in essence, that's what I do. So it's trying to explain to people what I do without scaring them off, right? Like, even my copywriters were like, well, we've got to put on your website, that you help people feel their feelings. I'm like, don't tell them that. Nobody will ever want to work with me. But it's the truth, right? Like, when we actually allow ourselves to feel what's going on for us, then we stop engaging in these numbing behaviors, whether it's, with our nutrition, the type of food we're eating, how we're beating ourselves up in the mirror, how we're constantly busy and stressed out and strung out at work, doing all the things, or perfectionism, or trying to control all the pieces, or taking care of everybody to our own detriment, or constantly saying yes all the time, and then wondering why we've got nothing left for ourselves. So that's what's available to us when we actually pay attention to how we're feeling, instead of just going, well, falling default to those type of behaviors. So there you go, in a big nutshell.
In a big nutshell. So to start with, I want to really dig into some of your nutritional stuff, because I know that's how we first encountered each other. I took part in the first 5 days of you challenge, which was so much fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was like 2.5, 3 years ago now. That was the first big challenge I ran. It was, I think I had 3,200 women sign up for it. It was overwhelming and exciting. And I was like in so deep. I had no idea I was in so deep. And it was all based around, how women could really be engaged in their lives more and start paying attention to food. So it was, lots of elements of self-care, like just kind of basic stuff, and how to look at your nutrition in a different way, because so often we complicate nutrition, and it doesn't need to be complicated. We just need to understand that it's rarely about the food as to why we can't stay consistent with our healthy eating, right? There's so many, the stories and the baggage that women have about their bodies and about dieting is like unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Back to those pesky feelings again.
Back to those pesky feelings, right? Not being good enough, right? Why does my body look this way? And I remember there was one part in the 10 Days of You challenge that asked people to go back in time and look at a picture of themselves from years previous. And what would they say to their younger self? And so many of them came back and said, God, I pulled out this picture and I remember thinking like, oh, if I could only lose 5 or 10 pounds. And now I'm looking at that picture thinking, I was hot. Look at me. Like my body was slamming. Why was I beating myself up? So it was just that awareness that we get to decide how we want to think and feel about our bodies all the time. And if we just pause long enough to appreciate them for where they are, instead of constantly beating ourselves up over where we think we should be or where we're not, life gets a lot more peaceful, right? Like beating up on ourselves can take up a tremendous amount of bandwidth, really robs us of being present in our lives and enjoying the things that are here now.
And you've channeled all of this into a book now, haven't you?
I've channeled all of this into the book. So like I was saying, this is, my work has evolved so much, because I've been working around, nutrition, weight loss, and as a personal trainer, going back almost 2 decades now. It's a long time. Like when I think about it, like, wow, that's a really long time. And I started out as a personal trainer and then, slowly recognized that my clients were not going to get the same results that they wanted or the results that they wanted if they didn't pay attention to what they were doing in the kitchen. So that's when I started to focus more on the nutritional aspect. I got into competing in fitness and figure myself because I'm very much a hands-on learner. So I wanted to transform my own body. I was never overweight, but I never really loved my body until I really got into weight training and nutrition. And then, slowly built out these courses and, fast forward, ended up moving all my courses online. And now that work has been put into a book along with all the mindset work now that I also know is so imperative in changing our behaviors with food. Because, what happened, I guess we're going on it'll be 6 years this spring. My husband went into rehab. He was an addict. I didn't know it. And I felt like my life had been the rug had been pulled out from underneath me. I had a 6-month-old baby at the time. My older boys were preteens. So I got immersed into the world of addiction and addiction recovery. And it was one of those, come to Jesus moments, so to speak, because I could have easily sat and been angry and resentful and how did this happen to me? And trust me, like all of that went down too. I'm a human being. I was angry. And I remember a counselor said to me, couples rarely survive addiction recovery. And I was like, I'll show you. Because that's where I was at in my own life, right? I was this constant striver, overachiever. Didn't realize that I was, kind of hustling for my own worthiness. And so I really went into my own kind of recovery with a notion of I'm going to do this so that I can save our relationship. And very quickly I realized that this was a gift that had been given me. It was a crappy gift, but it was a gift because I all of a sudden realized that I didn't have to worry about fixing him or wondering how he was going to recover. I came face to face with my own gremlins. Like there's a reason that people are drawn to addicts, right? So there's codependent traits and addicts are codependents as well, but codependents and addicts go together like, bread and butter. And I had never actually looked at my own stuff. So I had been a coach for years and years, but I had no idea what caretaking was or what being a people pleaser was or control or perfectionism. Like I had no clue about any of that stuff. So that kind of started my journey of unraveling my stuff and realizing how many places in my own life I wasn't really showing up as who I was. I was wearing all these different masks because underneath it all, I really didn't feel like I was good enough. So, my husband turned to drugs and alcohol to numb out his feelings. I'd spent my whole life turning to, overachieving, right? Trying to do all the things in my business. When I'm successful, then I'll be good enough. Meeting men like him, thinking, well, if I love them enough, then I'll be good enough, right? Caretaking, right? So doing all the things for everybody. All these things that I was doing to create self-worth outside of my body, not realizing that the only person that can give us high levels of self-worth and self-esteem, it has to come from inside. It's the inside out work. So that was a big part of my unraveling and my transformation. And what I was also able to do was bring it into my work, because all of a sudden I could see these, the nutrition program that I'd been building out, how that was the doing piece, right? Like, this is how you build out your nutritional blueprint. These are how you put the pieces together, right? The doing stuff. But I hadn't addressed who we're being and why we're turning to food, like what we're trying to cover up, what we're trying to mask. So women and dieting and food, it's really no different than drugs or alcohol or over shopping or sex addiction. We're still just looking for a way to not feel what's going on for us. So when I was able to bring in those pieces and talk about the different behaviors and help women really strip that down, that's when things started really shifting for people. And it really became not about the food. So again, like, the food you eat is important. You can't, if you're struggling to lose weight and you're sitting around eating donuts all day, you're not going to lose weight. Like, you do have to pay attention to the food you put in your mouth, but you also have to pay closer attention to your self-talk and how you're showing up in the world and your behaviors if you want to change anything. So the book really takes, all my courses, everything I've learned, all my stories, and kind of, packs it into, I think it's 17 chapters. So there's a lot in that book. Obviously, it's not going to be everything that I teach, but I wanted to be able to bring my work to the world in a way that was accessible to everybody and to create a legacy, especially as my coaching now has expanded and I'm not exclusively working with people on their nutrition, right? There's a lot of different things that I do. So yeah, there's the synopsis. There's a lot of stuff in there.
I am so excited to read your book.
I'm so excited too, and totally terrified. It's such a bizarre thing, right? Like, writing it was the easy part. I mean, it wasn't easy. There was a lot of at the coffee shop and turn off all the tabs and just do the thing. But now, oh my gosh, this is going to be out in the world. People are going to read this. It's brought up a whole bunch of new kind of layers and triggers for me. It's incredibly vulnerable to put your work out into the world in this way, because for some people, they're going to love it. It's going to really resonate with them. It's going to change their lives. And there's going to be other people that are like, this is crap. This isn't helpful to me. So, but it was something that I was really called to do, because I knew my work needed another layer. I knew my work needed another gateway for people to find out about what I do. And, for as much as I'm immersed in this kind of online space that you and I dance in with people who are really, they're a lot more conscious and mindful of many things. There are so many women out there who really still think that losing weight is about losing weight. And they really still think that their problem with food is about the food they're eating. They really don't understand that there's a whole other component to why they're stuck on this hamster wheel. So if even one person cracks open that book and goes, wow, I never thought about that, I will be able to rest easy at night.
Well, I know that obviously when this episode goes live, it'll be after Christmas, but I've got a little note on my, a little post-it on my desktop to remind me to just buy everyone your book for Christmas next year, because I know
that's awesome.
I know so many people who need it though. So many.
Oh, I'm so excited to get it out there. I'm excited to have you read it and get feedback, because it's one thing for my existing clients to read it, right? They know me, they love me, they've been through my courses, they get me, they get my jam. But it's a whole different, I'm more excited about the people who've never really been immersed in my work to read it and get their feedback and, what their ahas were and stuff. So yeah, I'm pumped. Are you signed up already? Did you sign up on my list? Because I know for anybody who signed up on my list before January 1st, and I know this will go out after that, I'm going to be sending out some pre-release advanced reader copies that are signed, because I want to just put some out in the world, right? This is about me leaning into what makes me uncomfortable as well, right? Really pushing those boundaries for myself, because it would be easy to write the book, throw it on Amazon, and never tell anybody about it. Right. It's scary to tell people no. So
So when you were writing, was it just a case of going to a coffee shop and being really focused, or did you have like your own little writing ritual or outline of what you were going to do?
Okay, full disclosure, I had help with this book, like 100%. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Myers-Briggs, but like I'm an INF. You know, I'm a feeler. I'm not really good at structure and organization, even though that's part of what I teach. So I had somebody help me with like putting it all together, laying out the framework so that it would read in a way that made sense. So we took all of my courses, everything that I've ever live streamed, right? So you think about the volume of content, and we had everything transcribed.
You live stream a lot.
I live stream a lot. So we had everything transcribed, and then we kind of sorted through it and pulled out like, what are the biggest things that we need to, what are the biggest things we need to? And then he helped me with the framework. And then I would get the framework and I would go back in and then edit and say like, yeah, like it was a very much a collaborative process, which worked really, really well for me, because the thought of writing a book on my own and starting it from start to finish was so overwhelming. This is why I haven't written a book. And when I finally got to the place where it was like, you know what, getting the work out there is more important than, like how can I make this easier for myself and still have my hands all over it? So when I would get stuff back from him, I would literally block off weeks in my calendar. And I would say no to everything else, like no phone calls, no client calls that week. And I would sit in the coffee shop, because I would even leave my house, like I needed to change my environment. And I would sit from like 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would just be in and editing and changing things and writing things and taking things out. And it was probably one of the most intense things I've ever done in my life, because we were working on very specific deadlines. So there was no dilly-dallying. There was no time to like second guess myself or question things. Like I just had to get it done. And that was a powerful experience for me too, because I can be a terrible procrastinator. And procrastination for me is just, again, resistance. It's my fear of doing things right and finishing. So there was no room for that, because I was accountable to him and his deadlines as well. And so things just kind of kept rolling along. And then the next thing you know, it's like, okay, we're done. Okay, let's do this. So today I should be receiving my first proof copy in the mail before we get a bunch of them printed. So they won't be available on Amazon until the 20th of February. But these advanced reader copies, we're getting them individually printed and sent to me, but they're sending me a proof today. And I'm like, this is like the best Christmas present ever. Like I'm going to be holding like my book in my hands. It just feels so surreal, because it was never, some people have that dream to write a book. That was never my dream. I never woke up and said, I want to write a book today. I thought about writing a book and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so much work. This is going to be so hard. So to be at the place where I found the right person to work with it on, amazing. So it's pretty cool.
I know when we've spoken before, you told me that you find it so easy to just show up and live stream or show up and talk on camera and go off the cuff. But when it comes to writing, that's when you just freeze or whatever. And so when I saw she's written a book, I was like, yes, everyone can be a writer. Everybody can be a writer. And if a book is something that you really want to do and you're struggling with it, then get help. Like, we get ourselves into trouble. So, and this was a lesson that I had to learn, going through my own recovery from codependency. Like, one of my Achilles heels was I wanted to be self-sufficient. I wanted to always look like I had my stuff together, right? And I could do it all. I didn't need your help. I will do it all, and I will look good while I'm doing it. And I learned through my recovery that I had to reach out and I had to ask for help. And that when I reached out and asked for help and let people see that I was actually, struggling, and didn't make it wrong that I was struggling. We all struggle. So in the areas of my life now that I'm not super awesome at, because we can't be super awesome at everything, I ask for help. I don't do all the things myself. So if you really have this dream to write a book and you're struggling with, well, how would I put it together? And it feels, hire somebody to help you, right? So
the things that we want to accomplish in life are going to cost us, like, time or money for the most part, but you can get help with everything. So yeah, if you want to write a book, reach out and get help, because I would still be going, I don't really want to write a book if I hadn't hired this guy to help me, and it would have taken 5 times as long.
I think that's a really important lesson that we all need to learn, especially if we're running our own business, because we want to be able to say that we can do all of the things, and we want to think we can do it all alone.
Yeah. And you know what? When we say that, we actually put a chokehold on our business, because our business can't grow if we're doing all the things. We become the bottleneck in our business. And I remember having a conversation with one of my coaches saying, like, it feels so, when I first hired my VA, it feels so weird because I don't even know, I don't know how to run my own email anymore. Like, I don't know how to do this. So the first thing she said to me was, do you think the CEO sits in his corner office and knows how to ship orders that his customer service reps take care of? No, because that's not his job. His job is to be the CEO of the company and hold the bigger vision for the company. She said, but those customer service agents have standard operating procedures. So when they hire somebody new, there's an SOP for them. And if the CEO did, for whatever reason, need to do that, he could pull out the SOP and the instruction manual is there. So it was a big lesson for me in, I don't need to know what she's doing. I don't even need to know how she's doing it. I need to know that it's done, and I need to know that there's a system in place. So if anything were to happen to anybody, I could hire somebody to step in and they can do those things. So for anybody who's growing their business, if you haven't hired somebody, you need to, because why are you spending your time on $10, $15, $20 an hour jobs when nobody can live stream for you, or nobody can do the things that your clients specifically need you for? And make sure that you're putting systems in place. So it's not just about hiring the person and then looking away. It's about hiring the person and saying, I'm building a business here. And that was a really big shift in my business when I stopped being a solopreneur and I started saying, I need to become a CEO and I'm growing a company. That was a shift. And I think so many of us get stuck in that I'm an entrepreneur and we don't grow from that. And we need to become more than an entrepreneur. We need to become a CEO, right? We need to head up a company. We need to treat our, whatever it is we're doing in the world, we need to treat it as a real business. And that comes down to the people we hire and how we manage our money, right? And that's a whole other topic, right? But so many entrepreneurs use their businesses like their piggy banks. I know I did, right? I need more money. Like, there was no systems even set up with my money, and that was a problem. So that was another chokehold in my business. So I've been, like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 2 decades now, and it's only been over the past year that I've really realized the depth of knowledge and wisdom that I have to share with other people, because I'm not a traditional business coach, but I know a lot of things and I can see a lot of things happening in people's businesses that I can help them navigate around, so to speak, right? Because, I've been face down a lot. I've learned a lot.
I feel like this is such a timely conversation because I just hired my first VA about 2 days ago.
Oh, good for you. High five.
Yeah, so we haven't actually started doing any of the work yet because obviously it's holiday season, but
yep.
I spoke to her on the phone and I was like, yeah, I like you. You are fine with my crazy. You seem to know what you're doing. Let's just do it.
Perfect. And that, it's finding the people that are really like, you have to find people that aren't like you, right? I had to find people that aren't like me. And the other thing that I have to make sure is that you have to be willing to let people go when they're not the right fit. And that is the hardest thing ever because, as an INFP, I tend to fall in love with people really quickly. But then it makes it hard if I know they're not the right fit for my business. So because I know that is a little bit of a weakness of mine, that I tend to fall in love, like it's a great character, like I love who I am. But it also means like I've had to hire somebody to be an OBM in my company, right? So an online business manager. And I've given her all the responsibility of hiring and firing people. So if we need a VA for a task, she does it. So I only communicate with her and she communicates with everybody else.
I love that. She's like the gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper. Awesome. At running a team.
Oh, sorry. Can you just repeat that last bit? The internet connection dipped out.
Oh, sorry. I'm not awesome at running a team. I love having a team. I'm just not awesome at running a team. So I hired somebody whose skill set is managing people. Right? Because ideally, I want to just show up in my business and be of value to my clients. Like that's where I want to be spending my time, is with my clients, not with, my team. I want my team to do the work that they need to do. I want to take good care of them. But yeah, I've just learned I'm not the best manager because I'm not organized. So how am I supposed to organize a team? So it's better for me to have communication with one person and then let her organize everybody else and find the things we need. Works way better.
I think that's the beauty of being in charge of your own business, is you get to build the structure to suit what you're good at and what you're not so good at. Because I think
Absolutely.
a lot of people, when they think about starting to outsource, they think they need to find people to fill specific roles, when actually it's not about having all of the right roles on your team. It's about filling your gaps.
Fill the gaps. That's right. And spend the money to get someone. Like so many people don't spend the money to hire someone to help them because they're not making the money to pay for it yet, right? Or they're nervous about spending the money. But, if you were a bricks and mortar business, you would have to pay the lease, right? Do the renovations, buy the product, put the product on the shelves. You would have to spend money before you make a dime, before you open the door of your business. Yet as online entrepreneurs, we're like, oh no, I don't want to spend any money until I make money. But the problem is we stop ourselves from actually creating the wealth and abundance in our business because we're not hiring somebody to help us. When I hired my VA, I was like, wow, things get done so fast with somebody, right? To do a webinar, which I don't love webinars, but I just got to show up on the webinar. I didn't have to do the setup. I didn't have to do the email stuff. Like all of that was taken care of for me. That saved me hours and hours and hours. And those hours I got to spend with my clients or doing my live streams or creating content that only I could create. So as much as it might be a reach to hire somebody to help you if you're just starting out, decide to put aside some money. And it's not a debt. It's an investment in your growth. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in your business, then there really is no risk there. It's just finding the right person to help you. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time. So, as the saying goes, hire slow, fire fast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Recently, I've noticed a lot of the gorgeous new photos that you've been posting online, and I've seen all of stuff for your rebrand that's been going on.
Yeah.
It is all completely gorgeous, by the way, but could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so my rebrand. I love my new website. I love it. So, like I said, most of my career has primarily been focused around, nutrition and weight loss. And over the past year and a half or so, my coaching had really branched out a lot. I'd been working behind the scenes with a lot of high-level entrepreneurs, a lot of strategists, kind of as their emotional wingman and helping them move their business forward. So really taking these people who are high performers and helping them to perform at an even higher level. But I never talked about it. And if you went to my website, you would never see anything about it. So it just got to the place where it was like, okay, you know what? I really need to step into what I'm doing and what I'm really about and what my bigger message is. And one of my clients, I'd been talking to her about something and I said, it's like full frontal living when you let yourself feel everything instead of, feeding it or getting busy at work. And she's like, you need to trademark that. So I did. And that's kind of become the big umbrella of my coaching, is this premise of full frontal living. So I reached out to one of my clients, and for me personally, I love working with my clients. I love hiring my clients to do work for me because they get me. I don't have to explain what I do or how I show up, like they get me. So I worked with Sarah Massey on my website. She's a web designer in the US. And I said to her, because she said, what do you like and what don't you like? And I said, well, I don't actually look at anybody else's stuff ever. Like, it's very rare for me. I said, but pretty much I want the opposite of any type of coaching website I've ever seen. Like, no pink, no gold, no black, no flowers, no swirly doodles on it. I said, that's not me. Like, I have an intensity about me when I coach. I am not here to be your best friend. I'm here to disrupt what's going on in your life, to create radical transformational change in you. So I'm not here to be your best friend. I will love you fiercely, but I want you to have what you want out of your life. So I said, I want this website to truly represent who I am and the things that I love. So not about like, what will my clients like? No. What do I love? Because I am my business. And that's what I want to put online. So I have always been like a sunrise and sunset lover. Like, the thousands of pictures I have in my phone of sunsets, crazy pants. So I said, I want like bold colors. I want colors that normally people are like, oh, those are brand colors that deter people, right? Like blues, we love pinks, but oranges and reds, like, don't use those. Those are disruptive. I'm like, I want those. So those are the colors that we went with. And she designed something beyond my wildest dreams. Like, she really captured the essence of who I was and the things that are important to me. And then my website, I hired a local photographer named Sandra Steer, did my own hair, did my own makeup, pulled clothes out of my own closet. And I just said, like, I just need you to capture me being me. And, we went to a local spot here and they turned out phenomenal, right? I didn't spend thousands of dollars on hair and makeup. It is really important for me when somebody, whether they meet me online or they meet me on person, that I'm the same person all the time. And I'm sure you've probably met those people where you meet them in person and you're like, wow, you're like so not the same. When somebody says to me, you are the same person in person as online, that matters to me. Like I've even said, you'll probably see me somewhere and I'll be wearing something that I was wearing in my photo shoot, because those are the clothes in my closet and I don't have a lot of clothes, right? Like, I've never been one of those shoppers. So I'm really happy with how the whole project came together. And then I worked with North Star Messaging with Marie and Jesse. They're also clients of mine. So they really understood the depth of my message and what I wanted to capture. And I don't think I've ever had, and again, this was very much a collaborative approach. Like, they wrote it all out and then we just kind of went in and edited and changed it. But the first draft they sent me, I just started to cry because I'm like, you guys get me. And that felt so good. And it's so important when we're hiring people to build our business and to build our brand that they really do understand us. And branding can be incredibly uncomfortable because we're forced to answer a lot of questions. Like, have you been through a brand assessment? Like, there's a lot of questions to answer and it can be very, very uncomfortable. So to surround yourself with people that really believe in your message and can really pull out the best of you. But going to a copywriter thinking you can just give them, a couple sentences and say, this is what I do, and expect them to make magic is crazy. Like, yeah, it's crazy. So I really love how it came together. And I wanted to just keep it simple. Like, my website is basically a sales page. Like, here you go. This is who I am. This is what I do. You want to book a call? Okay, push the button. Right? And then we were still able to bring in, I still wanted to honor all my work around nutrition and stuff. So we've created separate spaces for that because it is still an element of what I do. It's a tool in my toolbox. It's just not the primary focus of my work anymore. They're all automated courses now that people can go through on their own, and we'll see what the new year brings. I might work in small VIP groups because I really like that. But I'm staying open to whatever grows out of this, but it feels so good to have an online home that is truly representative of who I am and what I do. It feels good.
I really love what you said about hiring the people who you've worked with previously. Mm-hmm. That is so what I do. Like
Right.
90% of my clients and my consistent clients that I keep working with forever are people that I've also, like, I've bought their things or I've hired them to do something else. Or like my biggest client, I'm currently in her mastermind.
Mhm.
But I write all of her content, and sometimes she's like, do you know what? Like, I can't tell if I've written it or you've written it. And
Yep.
sometimes you sound more like me than me. And it's because I'm so immersed in like her programs and what she does, because I know all of that stuff.
Exactly. I had hired another copywriter to give her a try, and we did a lot of phone interviews and stuff, and when the copy came through, I read it, and usually, like, I love to write. I read it and I was like, I don't even know where I would start to edit this. Like, and that's saying a lot for me, because usually if somebody gives me a framework, right, like they give me the green light, I can just get in there and change it. And I was literally like, what is this copy about? Like, this is not even close to who I am. And she came back and she said, like, I just couldn't really capture who you were. And what I've come to realize is, because of the work I do with clients, for people who haven't done that inside out work yet, they genuinely don't know what it is that I'm talking about. So when I'm trying to explain what my coaching is, if they haven't experienced it and they're kind of still in the depths of what's going on for them, they're like, I don't get it. And I say that with a lot of love and compassion, because I remember when one of my first counselors was telling me, like, we had to learn about boundaries. And I was like, what is a boundary? I'm like, I don't understand. And then we had to like role play boundaries. And I'm like, I don't get it, because I had no boundaries in my life. So I had no concept of what that meant. So yeah, it was realizing that moving forward, the type of women that I work with, they've already started to dip their toe in self-development. They're not total newbies. And with this particular copywriter, she hadn't done any of this work on herself. So of course she would have never been able to pull out my message. So I think with copywriting specifically in your business, you really have to take your time to find the right person who can really capture your message. And you have to be prepared to put your hands on it. Like, you have to be willing to collaborate, because if you can't just hand over your copy to someone and think they're going to nail your message. Now you are with your coach, because you're so immersed, right? Like, you've got this deep relationship with her. But most people, when they're hiring a copywriter, don't have that. So it's really, really important to take your time, because you would spend thousands of dollars on copy and have it be like, it's not really what I wanted to say. So
I've noticed that something that a lot of people do as well is, if they've hired someone to do their content and they get it back, and then they think they're not allowed to edit it or not allowed to do anything with it. So they just don't use it.
yes.
No, it's yours now. Do what you want.
That's right. People are afraid to, it's like we hire somebody and then we think we need to listen to what they say. And if you're going to hire somebody, yes, you should listen. But it's your business. And at the end of the day, you are responsible for the work you put out there. So I work with people that, like, right off the bat, I say, this has to be a collaboration. Like, if you have a hard time letting go of control and collaborating, we're going to have a problem, because I need to be working with you, not you working for me and me just, it has to be that kind of collaborative approach. And then, of course, I always need to check myself that I'm not putting my hands on too much, right? So for instance, with my OBM right now, quite often she'll write some emails for me or sketch them out, and then she'll send them to me to edit, right? To make sure that they say what I want it to. And I can read through them and I can spend like 45 minutes ripping them apart. But do I really need to? So sometimes I need to read through it and just say, is this good enough? Yes or no? And then, give less F's about it and just say, send it, right? Because I can still get triggered into that perfectionism. So I have to really check that for myself. Like, sometimes good enough is good enough. It's an email. 20 years from now, is somebody going to remember that one email? Probably not. So,
but they might remember that transformational live stream that you spent your time on instead.
They might, right? And that's where I need to spend my time. And even with live streaming, it's, it's a love-hate. It's a love-hate, because it's easier in terms of I don't get nervous when I hit live. But, you know, I still have to battle the gremlins about, you know, what am I going to talk about? Is this even relevant? Does anybody care about it? And quite often when I get inspired, it's not a super convenient time to live stream because I got kids running around or I'm at the middle of the grocery store. And social media can become such it can just take over your life. And I've worked really hard to make sure that I'm living in the present moment. And I don't do it perfectly, but social media, just like food or alcohol or drugs, like social media is the new addiction. And I can easily spend all day on Facebook, in and out of posts, in and out of live streams, doing the stuff, only to look up and say, like, have I actually really done anything today? Have I really lived my life? So I try and put boundaries around it too. But, you know, and then I tried to schedule, like, every Monday I'm going to do one at 11 o'clock. And after about 4 weeks of that, I'm like, this feels horrible. Like, I didn't like having to show up every Monday at 11 o'clock. So I changed the rules again. But there's a fantastic book. Your listeners might really enjoy this. I found it was very eye-opening for me. Maybe you've read it. It's called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't read that one.
Okay. Super, super good book. She talks about how to change habits, or, you know, to get things accomplished, there's 4 different tendencies to how we do things. So there's the upholder, and the upholder meets internal expectations. So if you say you're going to do something, right? If you tell yourself you're going to write a book or do a blog post, you get it done. Come hell or high water, 2 a.m., you're still writing it, but you said you were going to do it, so you're getting it done. And they also meet external expectations. So if a coach or a friend or something says to you, like, this is your deadline, you're going to meet that. So those are the high achievers, right? Because they're meeting internal expectations and external expectations, but that's how they accomplish things. Then there's the obliger. They can never stay accountable to themselves, but if their girlfriend says, like, we're going to be at the gym at 7 o'clock, they'll go because they're meeting external expectations. And most people are obligers, right? Then there's the questioner. They will only change their habits if it makes sense to them. So if I have a questioner as a client and I say, you know, I think that this, and this would be a good strategy in your business, or we're talking about something, it has to make sense to them. Otherwise, they won't take action. But once it makes sense to them, they're all in and they'll go for it. And then the last category is the rebel, which, you know, shocking, that's the category I fall into. And rebels resist inner expectations and they resist outer expectations. So rebels rely on choice and freedom. And without choice or freedom, we don't move forward. So I have been going to the gym for most of my life, but I do not have a set schedule. Sometimes I go to classes, sometimes I go on my own, sometimes I go at 6 a.m., sometimes at 4 p.m. I need freedom and flexibility. If I have to be registered for a class, hell no. And this is why live streaming every Monday at 11 o'clock stopped working for me, because I'm like, this doesn't feel good anymore. There's no freedom in this for me. So in knowing these things about ourselves and what category we fall into, like my husband is an obliger. So for him to go to the gym constantly, if he signs up for something, he's all in. Right now, his program is on a break and he's on the couch a lot because he doesn't have that external, right? That external motivation. For me as a rebel, as much as I love that choice and freedom, now that I know that about myself, I also have to be mindful that I'm not sabotaging my business at every corner because I'm like, well, no, I don't want to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way. Whereas there's validity in walking the path that somebody else has walked already. Doesn't mean I can't change the rules or tweak it or adjust it and listen to my intuition. But sometimes I'm like, oh no, you've got a clear path over there? No problem. I'm just going to pick up the machete and go this way because I want to do it my own way. So in knowing our tendencies, it really does help us know what we need in order to achieve things and where we need to turn down the volume, right? So upholders, because they set such high internal expectations and external, half the time they never feel like they're achieving anything because there's always that like next thing, the next bar, the next, right?
I feel like I'm definitely an upholder.
An upholder, right. So you never win. You never get to feel successful because there's always the next thing you're chasing. You never let yourself just like sink in and say, you know what, like I know I said I was going to do that, but you know what, I think I need an extra couple of weeks to get that done. And you know what, I'm not going to die if I change my deadline, right? So it's learning to have some grace and ease with yourself and your business so that you actually can give yourself room to expand. Because that's like working with a noose around your neck. Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that I'm not good at upholding is my time off. So I'll book in time off and I'll tell myself it's in the calendar, so it's going to happen. Yep. But then like today, for example, I was supposed to have the day off today, and I sat there on the couch when I got up first thing, and I just thought, I'm just going to quickly sort out my finance stuff, and then that's taken care of. And those emails, I'll just quickly send those emails. And oh yes, need to just catch up on those phone calls. I'll call my grandma back. And, like, before I know it, like my fiance's back home from work, and we've walked the dogs, and I'm on a podcast interview.
Right, there's your day off gone. So make no mistake about it. Being busy and constantly doing things, because that was my default behavior, that was a numbing behavior for me because it was uncomfortable for me to do nothing. So, for example, in my business, I always said I wanted freedom in my business. I want freedom to do whatever I want. And then one day I realized I have all the freedom that I want, but I was never actually going to give myself the freedom to do whatever I wanted because it was so uncomfortable for me to not be doing things and being busy. Because I put so much value and so much of my worth in the working hard and the getting things done. And lying on the couch or taking a nap or watching Netflix seemed like a waste of time. But doing nothing is doing something. That's when we regenerate. That's when we get our creative ideas. And that's when our body just like rests. That was uncomfortable for me. Like, I'm the girl in the gym. If you say for me to do 1 more rep, I'll do 5 more. Right? Whereas there's other people that you tell them to do 1 more rep and they're like, nah, I'm good. So there's 2 different types of people, and each side isn't right or wrong, but it's honoring the fact that we do need to slow down. So some people need to turn up their intensity to get things done, and others of us need to turn the intensity down. And it's a known fact in the gym, if you want to make gains in terms of your fitness, your rest is more imperative than what you're doing in the gym. So you go to the gym, you train hard, you put in your time, and then you rest. And if you're not resting enough, you'll gain weight, you lose lean mass. Like, there's a whole host of things that go wrong. And the same is true in our business. If we're not giving ourselves that time to rest and recover and be creative and get out and play, we actually aren't moving our business forward. We're just in this hamster wheel, and we make up this story that we're being busy is moving us forward. But we're actually not doing anything that's super productive. It's just busy work.
The curse of the busy work. I know
the curse of the busy work, right? So, and I bet if you looked in your life, so this is the thing about numbing behaviors or addictive behaviors, right? We think we've gotten over one, and it's like a snake in the grass. It moves to something else. So it's always being mindful of, where am I not being present in my life? Where am I avoiding discomfort? So now I can take a nap in the middle of the day. It still feels a little bit weird, but I do it. Now I make sure that I have like certain TV shows that I watch, and I put my phone down and I literally just let myself watch them for pure enjoyment. Right? Whereas how often are you listening to like podcasts and like constant like fire hose of learning, right? Codependent on knowledge. And some I don't need to learn anything else every now and then. I need to just like have fun and laugh and do something for no reason other than it's fun. So bring more of that into your life, because your creativity will actually go through the roof.
That brings me nicely to a question that I'm asking everybody who comes onto the pod. What is your biggest guilty pleasure, and how do you weave it into your work?
And how do I weave it into my work? So my guilty pleasure in work?
Or your general work day or your life?
Okay, so I think I don't really feel guilty about anything anymore. Guilt isn't a bad thing. It kind of, helps us stay the course. I love candy. Right. So I love candy. So if there's any guilty pleasure, it's like, I really love candy, but I have to keep it in check, right? Because the more sweet you eat, the more you crave. I'm never going to cut sugar out of my life. And I don't ask my clients to, because we have sweet taste buds for a reason. But it's learning to stay conscious to it and not let it take over. So that's kind of a guilty pleasure. I love reality shows. Like, I love Survivor. I love The Voice. Like, I love watching people. And I think, so it's not about the drama. It's not about, all of that. I genuinely love watching people do things that they didn't think they could do. I love watching the contestant that wins the show or gets to the top 3 or, realizes that she's done something that she never thought she could do. I love that. Like, I will cry watching things like that, because I've had those moments in my life where I'm like, wow, I just did that thing. That's so cool. So that's definitely, and fairy tales. I love fairy tales. So whenever, I talk about self-care, for me, that getting back to play and relaxing, because that's not a default. I kind of, grow up, show up, be busy and do the things, and that's what matters. So in that 10 Days of You challenge, I challenged everybody to look at things they did when they were young and embrace that again, bring it back into their lives. And I realized when I was little, I had such a fierce imagination, from, playing detective to, just fairy tales and stuff. So when I'm feeling blue or I really need to regenerate, that's the time where I'll sink into, like, episodes of Once Upon a Time, which ironically I live in Storybrooke from seasons past. And like shows like Maleficent. I've watched Maleficent I don't know how many times. I love it. Fairies and fantasy world. Like, so those are kind of my, right? Like, there's no purpose to them. They just let me, like, enjoy my imagination and kind of be a little girl again when life wasn't so serious. So yeah, those for sure.
Absolutely love that you've managed to make reality TV sound empowering.
And I get that it's all, like, plotted out, but seriously, like, I just watched The Voice, the season finale of The Voice, and the girl who won was, I think her name was Chloe, and she had this amazing voice, right? Like, scratchy and kind of cracked, and she just had, and very, like, deep, like, such a really iconic sounding voice. And she really never thought she would get anywhere with her singing, because she doesn't have that traditional kind of pretty song voice. And to see her on stage, like, they showed a clip of when she found out that she was going to be singing a duet with Billy Idol, and just the, like, emotion in her, like, what? Billy Idol? Are you kidding me? And then she won the whole show. And I mean, she couldn't even speak. She couldn't even speak. She was so overcome with emotion. So when you see people in those moments of, like, that, like, you're literally watching somebody achieve a dream that they barely thought could come true, right? And the closer they got, the more it was like, maybe, what if? And yeah, like, so, not all reality TV is like that. I don't really watch things like, Big Brother or anything like that, but the ones where they actually are doing something, that's cool. And even Survivor, like, the mom who came in second place, the first challenge she did, she'd been trying to get on Survivor for 17 years. She'd applied. The first challenge she did, she threw up because she was so nervous, because she'd never been an athlete. She was told she couldn't play sports. So, and then she ended up in second place. Like, she went all the way to the end. She won 4 challenges on her own, and she's just a mom, right? Like, 40, I think she was like 43-year-old mom from wherever. And she spent 39 days sleeping on the ground, eating nothing, running challenges, being strategic. And it was just really cool to see that she had done this for herself, right? Or the vet who won, he'd come home with PTSD, and he never thought he'd get his life back. And now he won $1 million, and he played the game, and it was, yeah, just amazing. So yeah, those are totally my guilty pleasures. Totally.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I really just want to ask you one question that's more about the nutritional stuff again.
Mm.
I'm asking this on behalf of all of my freelance buddies who work from home and who
Mm.
I know suffer from the same thing I do, which is a case of toast for lunch every
Oh
day.
God.
I know you've laughed at me before because I'm such a carb fiend, but I found that when I had a corporate job, I had a lot more accountability because I had another friend who was like very interested in staying healthy as well. So we used to keep each other in check, and that's the upholder in me again, obviously.
Right.
But when I'm at home, it just feels so much easier to just go put some toast in the toaster and then I'm done.
So here's the thing. You are a high achiever, right? You love excellence in your business. You have a high standard that you want to work at, and you are not working at your full capacity. So, you're working at like a 7, and you could actually be working at a 10, because the type of food we put into our body determines our energy, right? So you have toast for lunch, you get a spike in your energy, and then you get the mid-afternoon crash, and then you're into other stuff that doesn't really support you feeling your best. So it's not about getting, I've never been about getting your food perfect. But if you want to achieve, if you want to perform at your highest level, you have to put good quality food in your body. You don't go out and buy a Lamborghini and then go to the cheapest gas station you can find and cheap out on the gas, right? You put good quality gas in your Lamborghini to keep it running well. And there's a bigger thing under that, right? Like, you love your business so much, you're willing to give it everything, right? When we love something, we give it what it needs to thrive. So get curious about how you feel about yourself, that you are not worth taking the time to feed your body. We take care of the things we love at a very deep level. So if you're just having toast for lunch, I want you to really say, like, is this the most loving thing I can do for myself today? Eat this piece of toast. What else could I add to this? And just add another layer to it, right? Get some protein in, get your healthy fats in, pay attention, because you will drive yourself into the ground in your business, and your body will finally give you the middle finger, say, we're done. You can't work anymore, because the machine that is allowing you to do all these amazing things in the world has had enough. You can only put a plant in a corner in a dark room and not water it for so long, and it will die. And we just keep ignoring the symptoms and the signals that our body is giving us because we got big things to do. But eventually, your body will stop you. So, again, you don't have to be perfect. It's just making that commitment. If I were to eat to nourish my body so that I can show up and be the best in my business, which means I'm supporting my clients at the best, showing up for my fiance as the best, what do I need to do for myself? And then do that.
I need to read Lisa's book.
Yeah, read the book. Read the book, right? But things we love, we take care of. Things we love, we take care of. So if you know you're not taking care of yourself, that is your cue to say, wow, am I really would I treat my best friend this way? Would I treat my fiance this way? Would I treat my kids this way? And if you wouldn't, then why is it okay for you to treat yourself that way? And, at least get like a really good quality bread filled with grains and seeds. Right?
You're really going to insist on making me look at these feelings, aren't you?
I am going to insist on it, because I know you're like denial, avoid. So it's okay. It's okay. We baby step our way into them. But yeah, you can't outrun them forever.
And on that positive note,
the
book is out on the 20th of February.
February 20th. You can find out all the details, whenever you're listening to this, at lisacarpenter.ca/book launch. We'll be announcing all the different bonuses and stuff that will be coming out, because we're going to do like a launch party. I'm not really sure what this party is going to look like. It might be me dancing around in my living room. I don't know, but we're going to be doing a bunch of different bonuses, and just trying to have fun. I want to have fun with it. I want to have fun with it. I want this to feel good. yeah, and we'll see how it plays out. So it's not going away. It's like it'll be available forever. But yeah, if you buy it from February 20th, there'll be a window there. There'll be a whole bunch of extra bonuses, which is cool.
Exciting stuff.
It is. Thank you.
Well, I for one can't wait to read, and everybody else, I will put the link in the show notes. So please do go check out Lisa, check out her stuff. It's all really brilliant.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on. This was awesome. It was great to connect with you again.
Thank you for joining me.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to Your Biz, Your Rules. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about weaving personality into your business, please feel free to hop over to my website, darapaddy.com. That's where you'll find all kinds of resources and all kinds of inspiration for just being a little bit more you online, because it is possible.